Sawadee-krap. Um, I'm really delighted to be here this afternoon with you, and I'm honored to be asked to present. What I would like to share with you over the next 35 minutes is a little bit about three things, really. I'd like to share with you about how is technology evolving and why. Why is the web and the cloud is particularly important for both businesses and governments across the world, and more specifically, I would say, in countries in Southeast Asia. Then I'd like to share with you a little bit about what Google as a company is doing and how various businesses and governments are using Google technology to become more efficient, become more responsive, and to really transform how they communicate with their stakeholders and constituents. And finally, I'd like to leave you with some examples of, specifically around government, some ideas, some examples of what other government departments are doing, other ministries are doing around the world using Google technology. So those are the three things I'd like to share with you this afternoon today. So starting off with, I'm sure everyone is quite familiar with this, that the technology around us and the pace of innovation around us is growing at a rapid pace. And this chart shows you, where we've come from and where we are today. And specifically around with cloud computing and with the web, it provides a tremendous opportunity for countries across Southeast Asia to really change the game and to build a much quicker, faster way of reaching out to their broader markets, a much better way to communicate and be more responsive to their stakeholders, be it their citizens or be it other constituents. So there's an overall tremendous opportunity today with technology being the change agent, if you embrace it, to actually allow governments to scale and to be more responsive with your stakeholders. Here's a quote, and we see this across the board. Here's a quote from the US President Barack Obama, where we're starting to see, and he talked about how today government employees are saying that they actually find that their kids, their children, have a lot more technology and a lot better technology in their backpacks than they themselves have in the offices. And we're seeing this play out all over, be it in government or be it in the corporate workplace, whether that's a small organization, a medium organization, or a large organization. We're starting to see that the technology you have today in your hands with smartphones or tablets or even your notebooks provides you with a far higher and better productivity in your personal lives than you actually have in the workplace. And a lot of what we see as the potential for the cloud and the potential for the web in the workplace, be it education, be it government, be it corporate, the potential for the web and the cloud is to change that dynamic, is to ensure that you have the ability with tremendous flexibility and agility to provide this capacity to your constituents at a remarkably low economics. And we're starting to see this play out all over. And interestingly enough, you'll notice that a number of senior government executives, number of senior government stakeholders are starting to say that closing this IT gap between what you have at home and what you have inside your workplace is one of the most important steps for governments to create a more efficient, create a more responsive government, and to transform how you collaborate internally, transform how you provide services to your internally as well as to your stakeholders, and really transform the way the various constituents see you. And there was a research done again by in the U.S. within the federal government, where they looked at what are the different things that they need to do to transform the federal government. And the US government CIO, whose name is up here, in there, basically came out with a 25-point report that said, what are the things that we as a government need to do in order to transform ourselves and provide better services, provide better transparency to our constituents. And interestingly, in that report, one of the things that came out was that cloud computing, leveraging the cloud, leveraging the web, is going to be one of the key platforms and forums, technologies if I can call it that, to actually provide that benefit. Because of simple reasons. Three simple reasons that they came out with. It's worth getting your hands on that report. The three simple reasons that they came out with that was relevant to that country at that point in time was economical. First of all, that using the cloud and leveraging the cloud to build your systems was just a lot cheaper, just made a lot of sense, rather than investing a tremendous amount of money in infrastructure. You are now spending a lot of that money at a much lower cost on the cloud and spending more time of resources and energy and ideas in building innovation in terms of how you communicate with your constituents. The first thing was economical. The second was flexibility. They felt, in that report, they talked about how the cloud was going to give them a tremendous amount of flexibility because they didn't have to worry about infrastructure. They could spend most of their time actually bringing together to life a number of services very quickly that were relevant to the stakeholders. And the third was that was going to be fast, that you could now think about providing services to your constituents, in this case, into their constituents. They could end up providing services to their constituents at 1/10 of the time it would take them otherwise. So in a nutshell, what they came out with was that for the US, cloud computing was going to be a very significant platform in order to provide a more responsive, a more efficient, and transformative government. Now, if you bring this back to countries in Southeast Asia, I know there are some delegates here, it's mostly Thailand, I believe, but there's some delegates here from outside of Thailand within Southeast Asia. If you look at Southeast Asia specifically, if you look at the web, firstly from a business standpoint, one of the key things that the web and cloud provides businesses is an ability to get global reach very, very quickly. So if you're an auto manufacturer, small or medium or even large, but typically small or medium, if you're an auto manufacturer in Bangkok or Chiang Mai or any part of Thailand, and you want to reach out to your customer base, or you want to reach out to a market in the US or Europe, or for that matter, other parts of Asia, the web gives you that scale, that ability to reach out to a much bigger market than you ever could. Previously, the accountability of that was in trade delegations, and the governments in most countries, and I know including Thailand, have been extremely proactive to drive trade delegations to ensure and to help small, medium businesses reach out to a much larger market base. But the web and cloud does that with tremendous efficiency at a fraction of the cost and quickly. So what we're starting to see is, for businesses, the cloud offers the ability to reach out to a much bigger marketplace without a major investment on the behalf of the manufacturer. So supporting small and medium companies get on the web, come online, is something we're seeing most governments across Southeast Asia embrace, as well as actually proactively taking a front foot and taking a step forward and encouraging businesses to move to the web to reach this bigger market. But equally, for governments, it also provides an opportunity for governments to provide a lot of services to their constituents that people are looking for, to provide increased responsiveness, to build a closer relationship with the constituents, with the citizens, with the people, and again, with a number of services. And I'll share some of this with you. So what we're seeing is a number of government agencies, government ministries starting to look at the cloud as a mechanism for truly getting scale very quickly at a fraction of the cost and come up with some innovative thinking and ideas. And I'll share some of these innovative ideas and thinking with you during the course of this presentation. So that's it at a high level in terms of what we're seeing in terms of the relevance of the web and cloud specifically for governments. What I'd like to do is kind of spend the next few minutes really sharing with you some insights as to, what is Google as a company? What is Google doing to ensure that, or not to ensure, but what is Google doing to help businesses and governments transform themselves in the way I just talked about earlier? So the philosophy that we have, our mission, I guess, in terms of Google in the workplace, is very simple. We have consumer technology that is well loved and well appreciated by people all over the world, and that's certainly true in Thailand. And we have, people who love using this technology. It's easy to use. It's been designed with 15-year-olds in mind who can just wake up and just use this technology. In fact, we're starting to see children in the age of 6 and 7 start to use our search engines to find information. And we're trying to bring that same mission of providing simple, consumer-friendly technology that can be used by anyone in the workplace. That workplace could be businesses, it could be education, it could be government. So the first thing we're trying to do is really remove expert barriers. We're trying to make it easy. Over the last 10 years, the way enterprise technology has developed, it's actually become quite complicated. A lot of people find it hard to use the systems inside their own workplace, which is why adoption is typically low. And what we're trying to do is use simple, consumer-friendly technology in the context of the workplace to assist people to start adopting the various systems. That's the first thing we're trying to do. But in addition to that, we're trying to ensure that workplaces, governments, do not have to bog themselves down with complex, heavyweight, expensive infrastructure. We're trying to make it light, use the cloud to bring this consumer technology into the people so they love using it in the day-to-day lives, at work, like they use in their personal lives. And that can be done using the cloud and some of the cloud capabilities that we have. But the fundamental premise of bringing these simple technologies into the workplace at a low cost is to really allow people to collaborate better. It's to allow people in the workplace to connect with other people, to connect with content, to connect with ideas and insights a lot faster, a lot better than could have been done in the past. And I'm going to share some of those with you, but that's the philosophy that we have with Google in the workplace. The different solutions, I want to spend a little bit of time on this, the different solutions that we bring together. Now, there's 5 areas I'll share with you, and I'll give you some examples very soon as to how governments are leveraging all of these areas in the workplace. But these are technologies that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to share with you, that are not unknown to you today. If you're using a smartphone and you're using Google services, you're using all of these today, or most of these today, in your personal lives. So there's nothing here that is different. There's nothing here that is foreign. There's nothing here that is unknown to you today already. So the first one is around connecting and collaborating. So, if you're using Gmail in your personal lives as a great way to connect with your friends, whether it's through email or chat or through video conferencing with Google Hangouts, or it's to use Google Docs to share documents and spreadsheets, what we do is we take the same technology and we provide it to businesses so that the businesses, be it governments, can communicate and collaborate a lot better than they did before. Same thing we do with Google Maps. If you're familiar with Google Maps, if you're going from point A to point B, most people today use Google Maps as a way of getting across. It's one of the most downloaded products on the internet today. We provide the same Google Maps technology to provide a consolidated platform for governments and businesses, but I'm talking about governments here, for a consolidated central platform for governments to plot all of your assets. And I'll share some of these examples with you, but you have a number of different assets that you have, and you're always trying to visualize what's happening here. What's the correlation between crime in particular districts with the location of ATMs? What's the correlation between, where the location of my sewage pipes, where the location of my telecoms infrastructures. What we do with a lot of governments is provide a central platform that they can plot all their assets, and then it can be used by all of the people within the government department, either on their desktops, or on their tablets, or on their notebooks, or on their mobile phones. That's how Google technology works. The third is to build. So the same technology that Google uses, our platform, which serves YouTube, serves Google Search, which serves all of our services, we actually rent out that platform to government departments as well as to corporates, so they can build their next generation applications on our platform at a tenth of the cost, at a fraction of the cost. And we're seeing a big take-up around that. So, for example, if you're starting to build a number of customer or citizen-facing websites, rather than build it on your own infrastructure that might take you 3, 4, 5 months, ignore the infrastructure, put it on Google, and you could be up and running in 7 days at a fraction of the cost. So you can think of a lot of different ideas that you can come up with. The next one is around finding information. So Google is synonymous with search. Google is well known for the search appliance, search engine. You can find any information you want by just writing a few words of text and you get that information. We're bringing the same algorithms that power Google search, which you use in your personal lives. We're bringing the same algorithms in an appliance, and we give it to businesses and governments. And governments basically use it to power up their own information so that you can find documents, find information, either internally as a government employee a lot faster, or you can actually surface out all of the relevant documents that are non-classified, surface it out to your citizens, to the people who need to search for those information. And I'll share some such examples with you. And the final area is around providing low-cost access to the web using the Chrome browser and Chromebooks. So we're starting to see a lot of companies start to use a Chromebook as a very low-cost, very efficient, very quick way of getting access to web services. So those are the 5 areas that you'd be familiar with in your personal lives. We take the same technology and we bring it to businesses. There is one difference though. What we do for businesses, what we do for governments, is we actually add a layer, same functionality, but we do add a layer of additional control and security and administrative control, so that as a business you have a lot more control on how these services are used by various people in your workplace. So if you're administering it, you can actually decide which person can use which service and which person cannot. So we do add a lot of additional security, we add a lot of additional controls to the same consumer technology, and we bring it to the workplace. And I'm going to share with you a number of examples now as to how various government departments around the world are starting to use this technology. So, this is especially true in emerging markets, right? You have a number of problems you're trying to solve. And that's what's challenging, but that's what's exciting. But, if you're in Thailand and you're trying to, the country is growing at a rapid pace, urbanization is growing, different areas are becoming more popular. How do you resolve a number of issues around where do I put the next set of roads? Where is the population moving? How do I do urban planning? How do I start informing my citizens a lot better about the policies we have to serve them better? A number of these questions you're trying to solve today. These are questions in many countries that were solved maybe 5, 7, 10 years ago on very expensive and very complex ways. You have the opportunity today to solve many of these problems using simple consumer technology powered by the cloud at a fraction of the cost. And I'm going to share with you some of these examples that other people are doing. So first thing is around Google Apps. We're working with a number of ministries around the world, and I'm going to share some examples with you where ministries are using Google Apps as their core communication collaboration tool to solve a lot of their problems that they have today. And this is true in Thailand too. A lot of government employees are using personal Gmail accounts to communicate and collaborate because they like it, because they love using it, and it's easy. Well, we solve part of that problem by providing, as I said earlier, a more corporate or a government-centric Google Apps business with a lot more security, with a lot more control for you. And we have a number of cases that I'm going to share with you. All of these three cases, there's a lot of information on that slide, so I don't necessarily want you to read through them. But there are three cases that I want to share with you. All three of these are in the US, where you've got the state of Wyoming in the US that basically using Google Apps to reduce the paper footprint. So they had an example of every employee, not every employee, but they had an example of some employees that would print out 480 paper pieces, documents, every day to get their job done. It was getting complex, it was getting expensive, it was wasteful. They moved to Google Apps with a way of communicating, collaborating, and going to a paperless strategy. And we're seeing a lot of governments want to actually do that. The next one here in the middle is really with St. Louis. The challenge they found was that they had a number of libraries that had a lot of content, and they wanted to find a way to distribute the logistics of this content in a much simpler way and collaborate on the content. Again, they had housed it all internally, they couldn't collaborate on this, and they found Google Apps with a way of putting all your documents in the cloud as a very intelligent way to save money, but also improve collaboration and communication amongst their own constituents. And the last one, which is one I really like, and this is a good example of how mobile and remote work is happening, is the case with the police force in Nevada, where you've really got the police force in Nevada. What the challenge with the police force is that everyone a large part of their workforce is on the streets. They're mobile. They're out in the streets. And they found that they couldn't get information to these mobile police workers quickly enough. That was really important for them to getting their job done. And the internal infrastructure that was siloed was holding them back. So they went to Google Apps as a way of really finding a way of getting information very quickly to mobile workers so that they could do their jobs a lot better. And we're seeing hundreds and hundreds of cases of government departments starting to move towards Google Apps as their core messaging and communication platform on the cloud, because it's a lot more effective. People love using the technology. They actually communicate better, and save a lot of money in the bargain. There are a number of cases here. I'll point out a few with the Ministry of Interior in the US, with 77,000 of their government employees basically communicate on Google Apps. Down in the middle, you've got the India Youth Congress with 25,000 plus employees, all communicating on Google Apps. And right at the bottom, you've got the Philippines Department of Education, where they've got 650,000 of their students and teachers all communicating and collaborating in this new world on mobile devices, on tablets with Google Apps. So we're starting to see a big take-up in government around a new way of communicating internally, reducing the paper footprint, improving logistics across this board. The second one is around Google Maps. And most people are familiar with Google Maps and they use it in their personal lives. But essentially what we do with the same technology, as I said earlier, with a lot more administrative control, with the same capability you use today on your smartphones or on your tablets, we're starting to see a lot of government departments, a lot of agencies collaborating together and plotting all of their information, all of their assets on a central map. Once you do that, you're able to look at trends and patterns quite easily. And it's very important for things like telco cables, sewage cables. Before somebody goes and digs up a road, and in emerging markets, and certainly some markets in Southeast Asia where there's a lot of development happening, before you start digging up a road to lay a new sewage pipe, it would be good to know that there's a telecom cable that you're not going to cut, or that road has already been planned for some form of urbanization, for a new bridge. How do you do all that without making it too complex? And one of the things we're starting to see with a lot of government departments, this is an example out of Wellington, where government departments are basically plotting all of their assets. It requires a little bit of collaboration amongst the government, but we're starting to see that happen across the board. Plot your water assets, plot your sewage assets, plot your telco cables, plot all of your third-party data that you've got, plot it on a single map, and you can see patterns. You can then provide services. You can actually have your service people with some form of a mobile device getting information in real time. We're seeing the same thing being used by a number of ministries around land records and township planning. How do you plan towns? Because you've got this urban spread happening in so many different cities or so many different townships. How do you plan this? How do you plan to ensure that if a certain population density is moving down a certain path, that you're going to have enough schools, that you're going to have enough hospitals, that you're going to have enough services available there. You're going to have enough banks with ATMs so that people can take out money. So what we're starting to see a lot of government ministries doing is, again, plotting all of these things on a common map, on a common platform to do this. And again, going down to a lower level, actually going down to planning at a street level. And this is what we're doing with providing street view. We're going around in most cities, taking images, providing street view so that governments can do a lot better planning on what kind of capabilities or what kind of services, what kind of assets they need right down to a street level. So we're seeing a lot of government ministries starting to centralize on this platform, and we're engaged in discussions across really most Southeast Asian countries where there is an initiative from the PM downwards saying one country, one map, so that all services can be seen. And we are having those discussions also in Thailand with one Thailand, one map, an integrated map for the government, really, where you've mashed together some of Google's base map with government data. Some of the data is available to citizens and some is classified. You can keep the classified information inside of your internal systems, protected by a firewall, and you can keep the open information or the non-classified information on the cloud. It's up to you. It's your choice. But it's really all about very quickly using consumer technology, in this case maps, plot all of your information from different departments, and it doesn't have to be 100% of all your departments, but even if 5 or 7 or 10 departments combine together and provide this capability, you're going to see a lot better, a lot more efficiency and a lot better services to the public. And we're doing a lot of work around these areas across, as I said, most countries in Southeast Asia. And we have been doing this for a little while in countries up in North Asia and Taiwan, etc. Moving on, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how governments are using the Google Search appliance in the internal business. In the internal services. And as I said earlier, the Google Search appliance is Google search technology that you're probably using every day. We take the same powerful algorithms that Google has created, we put it in a physical appliance, and you can see that in the top left-hand corner. Put it in a physical appliance, we give it to you, you connect it with your document systems to provide far quicker information retrieval for various folks. And we're starting to see hundreds of cases, literally hundreds of cases of this being used in governments all over the world. All over the world. This is probably one of the biggest usage that we see in government ministries all over the world. Things like emergency response. So this is an example I want to share with you with the US Coast Guard. So with emergency response, when there's an emergency, what do you need? You need people on the road helping, providing relief, with access to information quickly now. And if you don't provide that, it could affect lives. And we're seeing a lot more emergencies happening, as you know yourselves, around this part of the world. And the challenge that the US Coast Guard had was, when the emergency happened, there's been a few recently in the US, when the emergency happened, they couldn't find information. They actually couldn't give policy. They couldn't find the information to people in remote places or their emergency workers, because they had all of the data locked up in 60 different systems that were so hard to access. What they did was put the Google Search appliance, connected into all of the 60 different systems, and when an emergency happened, the Google Search appliance was the algorithm and the box and the appliance that was searching through all the different content in those different 66 systems and powering it back to the people who needed it right now on various policies, which were typically the emergency relief workers. So it's really about responding to emergencies really quickly in this particular case. The second one is around online self-service. Now, I know in the case of Thailand and most parts of Southeast Asia, this is a big area where governments are trying to provide better services to the people. So this is an example with the US State Department, where they were basically trying to provide for, in this particular case, as a starting point with anyone, and especially with over 350 embassies, the ability to actually search for information around visas, around policies, around arms control, a number of different documents that they had. Again, they actually had those documents in hundreds of different sites behind the scene, and it was becoming really hard for those 350 plus embassies and people to actually search and find out, just typing, find out what are the policies that the government has around this specific thing. Once again, they put the Google search appliance, they connected it to those 100 sites. They didn't have to replace anything. They connected it to those 100 different sites. So now if you have any question, you just type on it in that website for online self-service, and you can get the information. Now, irrespective of which ministry or agency you're from, providing self-service capabilities, providing information to your people is something that is getting more and more important. And this becomes a central mechanism of very quickly actually getting the information that you have in your systems and getting it out to people who want that. And there's a very good example of that here right now in Thailand that I want to talk about with the Thai library, where, you know, there's about 350,000 plus documents that are there in the Thai library, in the Thai parliament, Thai parliament I meant, going back to 1932, when the Thai Congress was created. And those documents, many of them have, you know, a very good capture of Thailand's culture and heritage and information that is important to give to the kids of the future and even the young adults. Again, they were finding it very hard to very easily provide that information that was so important for the culture to the people. Once again, they put the search appliance into place, connected into the different systems that they had. And if you now go to their website and you just do a little search, normal Google search, it basically goes behind the scenes, talks to all the back-end system, and gives you the information you want. So we're starting to see, and we have seen for a little while, that a lot of government ministries are starting to use Google search appliance as a way of just getting the information, the policies, the content that you have out to people, whether that's for emergency relief or just building a better information and transparency with the people, or for that matter, providing access to online services. The last area I want to share with you, and this is my last slide, is around Chrome. And I talked about providing people with a better way to access the web. And we're doing a lot of work in education around that, working with a lot of ministries around providing Chromebooks as a very low-cost device for education. And right through the US, we see hundreds of examples where, you know, in many states that students are getting access to Chromebooks, and they can access the web, and they can access content, as well as a lot of teachers and a lot of ministries of education are building online content so that the kids of the future have a chance to be at the top end by being aware of technology, and actually not just technology, but being aware of content that they wouldn't have previously got access to. And one example that I'm very proud of in this part of the world is in Malaysia, where we're working with the Malaysian government, work with the Malaysian education department. And they've now started a pilot with 10,000 schools that's going to go live very soon, where 10,000 schools and, you know, hundreds of students have access to Chromebooks as a way of improving their education, getting access to content that they wouldn't have had before, and in many ways transforming the next generation, which otherwise wouldn't have access to this. So those are the few areas that I wanted to share with you. As I said earlier, around communication and collaboration is one area in government that we're seeing a lot of work. The second is around really plotting all of your assets on a visual map. The third is around the Google search appliance, really giving your citizens, your people, access to content that you already have to build transparency and better online service. And the fourth area I wanted to talk about was Chromebooks. So those are the areas we're working with governments in across the world and across this part of the world. And I hope I don't know if that was my cue to leave, but I hope I've given you some thoughts about where you can work. We'd be very happy to engage with you to see if there's some value in your specific government, your specific agencies, in any one of these areas. We have local teams here, and we'd love to work with you. With that, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you.